What I'm about to tell you happened in Enugu. I've shared stories with you before, stories of resilience, transformation, redemption. But this one will settle into your bones and refuse to leave. Because this isn't the story of a woman who had everything handed to her. This is the story of a woman who was handed nothing but betrayal, who was fed poison by the very people who should have protected her, who watched her own blood drain the life from her future while smiling to her face. No safety net, no second family, no plan B, just a broken heart, empty pockets, and a rage so pure it could have burned the whole world down. Instead, she turned it into fuel. She didn't just survive what they did to her. She built an empire on top of the grave they tried to bury her in. And when they came crawling back, and they always come crawling back, she was ready. Listen carefully, because what happened next is the reason this story exists. Stay with me. Welcome to Folktales by Oma, where African stories come alive and every tale teaches the heart. Before we begin, join the family. Tap subscribe. Her name was Adiz Nnamdi, and she was born into the kind of family that looked perfect from the outside. You know the type, the ones who dress immaculately for church every Sunday, who host elaborate parties where everyone smiles too wide and laughs too loud, who post family photos with captions about blessings and unity while behind closed doors. Something darker festers, something that smells like envy and tastes like bile. Her father, Chief Nnamdi, was a successful businessman, import and export, the kind of man whose name opened doors across the Southeast. He had built his wealth methodically over 30 years, starting with one shipping container and ending with a network that stretched from Lagos to Johannesburg. 3 warehouses, a fleet of trucks, properties in Enugu, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. He was respected, feared in the right measure, and deeply, genuinely in love with his wife, Adiz's mother, Chioma. Chioma was the kind of woman who made rooms feel warmer just by entering them. A teacher by training, she had given up her career to manage the household and raise their children. But she never lost the sharp intelligence that had made her the best in her class at the University of Nigeria. She was gentle but not soft, kind but never naive. She saw people clearly, which is perhaps why she saw what was coming before anyone else did, and why, in the end, it didn't matter. Adiz was the firstborn, the golden child, the one who inherited her mother's intelligence and her father's business instinct. She could negotiate before she could spell the word. By 16, she was accompanying her father to meetings, sitting quietly in corners, absorbing everything. By 20, she was running portions of the business herself, managing suppliers, closing deals, earning respect from men 3 times her age who initially dismissed her as Chief's spoiled daughter and quickly learned otherwise. She had 2 younger siblings, Abena and Ngozi, both still in university when everything fell apart. The family was not without its tensions. Chief Nnamdi's younger brother, Uncle Emeka, had always been a presence, always at the edges, always watching. He worked in the business, handled logistics, drove one of the company trucks, lived in a house Chief Nnamdi had bought for him. He smiled often, laughed loudly at family gatherings, called Adiz my brilliant niece in front of others. But there was something in his eyes when he looked at his older brother, something that Chioma noticed and mentioned once to her husband late at night in the privacy of their bedroom. "Your brother envies you," she said. Chief Nnamdi waved it off. "Emeka is family. I take care of him. He has no reason to envy me." "Having no reason," Chioma said quietly, "has never stopped envy from existing." She was right. She was always right. Adiz was 25 when her parents died. A car accident on the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway, a rainy Saturday morning, a truck driver who ran a red light at full speed. The impact killed them instantly. Adiz received the call while she was at a business meeting in Abuja. She remembers the exact moment, the way the phone felt in her hand, the way the room tilted, the way her knees simply stopped working, and she found herself on the floor without any memory of falling. The funeral was elaborate, as befitting a man of Chief Nnamdi's stature. Hundreds of people came. Politicians, business associates, family from near and far. Uncle Emeka wept openly at the graveside, his voice breaking as he spoke about his beloved brother, his sister-in-law, the tragedy of it all. Adiz stood dry-eyed through the entire ceremony, not because she wasn't devastated, but because grief had gone so deep it bypassed tears entirely and lodged itself somewhere in her chest where it sat like a stone, cold and immovable. After the funeral, Uncle Emeka took her aside. His eyes were red, his face drawn with what looked like genuine sorrow. "Adiz, my daughter," he said, holding both her hands, "you are not alone in this. I am here. Your father was my brother, my blood. His children are my children. I will take care of everything. The business, the properties, all of it. You just focus on healing. Let me handle the burden." She was young, she was grieving, she was exhausted. She said yes. That was her first mistake. The second mistake was trusting that the lawyers her father had used for years would protect her interests. The third mistake was not reading every single document that Uncle Emeka placed in front of her during those first few months. Documents about temporary management, about restructuring, about protecting assets during the transition period. She signed them. All of them. She signed away her future with her father's pen. It took 6 months for her to realize what had happened. By then, Uncle Emeka had transferred the majority of the business assets into his name. The warehouses, the trucks, the supplier contracts, everything that generated actual income. The properties were split. Adiz kept the family house in Enugu and one smaller property. Uncle Emeka took the rest. The company bank accounts, the ones with 30 years of accumulated wealth, were systematically drained. Money moved to offshore accounts, to investments in Uncle Emeka's name, to places Adiz couldn't trace without lawyers she couldn't afford. When she finally confronted him, he was in her father's office, sitting in her father's chair, wearing her father's watch. "Uncle, what is happening? The accountant says the main business account is almost empty. The suppliers are calling me about unpaid invoices. What is going on?" He looked at her with an expression she had never seen before on his face. It was not guilt. It was not even anger. It was contempt, pure and undiluted. "What's going on, Adiz, is that you are a 25-year-old girl who thought she could run a business because her father let her sit in on a few meetings. This is a man's world. Your father built this empire, and now that he's gone, it needs a man to run it. That man is me. You're stealing from me, from Abena and Ngozi, from your own brother's children. I'm taking what I've earned. I worked beside your father for 20 years while you were in school, while you were playing businesswoman. This company exists because of my sweat too. Your father's gone. The business is mine now. You got the house. Be grateful." She stood in that office, her father's office, and felt something inside her break. Not her spirit, something else, something that had been holding her to the idea of family, to the belief that blood meant loyalty, to the hope that people could be trusted. It broke cleanly, like a bone snapping, and what replaced it was clarity. Cold, sharp, absolute clarity. She walked out of that office. She went home. She sat her younger siblings down and told them everything. Abena wanted to fight, to go to the police, to sue. Adiz stopped him. "We have no money for lawyers. The documents I signed give him legal cover. The police won't help us, not against a man with his resources and connections. If we fight him now, we'll lose. So what do we do?" Ngozi asked, her voice small. Adiz looked at her sister, at her brother, at the two people she was now responsible for. "We survive, we rebuild, and when we're strong enough, we take back everything he stole. Not some of it, everything." She sold the family house. It broke her heart, but she did it anyway because sentiment is a luxury and she had none left. She used the money to pay for Abena and Ngozi to finish university, to rent a small apartment for the three of them, and to start something, anything that could generate income. She had no business, no capital, no network anymore because Uncle Emeka had systematically cut her off from every contact her father had built. What she had was knowledge. Years of watching, learning, understanding how the import business worked. She started small, impossibly small. She became a middleman, connecting small-scale traders who needed goods with suppliers she still had personal relationships with, people who remembered her father and felt sympathy for his daughter. She took tiny commissions, barely enough to feed 3 people, but it was something. She worked 16-hour days. She slept 4 hours a night. She learned to negotiate harder than her father ever had because she had no room for error, no safety net, no second chances. She learned which suppliers would extend credit to a young woman with nothing but her word, and she never, not once, defaulted on a payment. She learned which traders were honest and which would try to cheat her, and she developed a reputation for being fair but absolutely unforgiving of dishonesty. Slowly, painfully, like water wearing down stone, she built something. A year passed. Then two. Abena graduated with a degree in logistics and joined her. Ngozi finished her accounting degree and took over the books. The three of them worked as a single unit, trusting no one outside their small circle, protecting each other with a fierceness born from having already lost everything once. By the third year, Adiz had saved enough to make her first real move. She didn't buy trucks or warehouses. She bought information. She paid a former employee of her father's company, someone Uncle Emeka had fired for asking too many questions, to tell her everything about how the business was currently running. What she learned made her smile for the first time in 3 years. Uncle Emeka was failing. He had the assets, the infrastructure, the contacts, everything he had stolen. But he didn't have the skill. He was losing clients because of late deliveries, poor quality control, broken promises. He was bleeding money trying to maintain a lifestyle that looked successful while the foundation crumbled. He had the empire. He just didn't know how to run it. Adiz saw her opening. She started targeting his former clients, the ones he had disappointed. She offered them better terms, faster delivery, personal attention. She undercut his prices until it hurt, operating on margins so thin she barely broke even, but she didn't need profit yet. She needed market share. She needed his clients to remember that Chief Nnamdi's daughter was back, and she was nothing like her uncle. One by one, they came to her. Within a year, she had taken 40% of his client base. Within 2 years, she had doubled her operation, and Uncle Emeka's company was in serious trouble. She heard through the network that he was taking loans, that suppliers were demanding cash up front, that the warehouses her father had built were sitting half empty. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no revenge, just the cold arithmetic of business. He had taught her that this was a man's world. She was teaching him that the world belongs to whoever is ruthless enough to take it. The confrontation came on a Thursday afternoon. Uncle Emeka showed up at her office, a small rented space in a commercial building nowhere near as grand as the office he had stolen. He looked older, thinner, the expensive clothes hanging differently on him. "Adiz," he said, and his voice had none of the contempt from 3 years ago. "We need to talk." "About what, Uncle? You're destroying my business." "Your business?" She looked at him with the same expression he had given her in her father's office. "You mean my father's business, the one you stole from his children?" "I made a mistake. I was wrong, but we're family, Adiz. We can fix this. We can merge the companies, work together. Your father would have wanted, don't." Voice was quiet, but it cut like a blade. "Don't you dare tell me what my father would have wanted. You dishonored his memory the day you sat in his chair and called his daughter a child playing at business. You took everything he built and ran it into the ground. You stole from your own blood. I'm sorry. I don't want your apology. I want my father's company back, all of it." He stared at her. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. You're going to sign over every asset you took from me. The warehouses, the contracts, the properties, everything. In exchange, I'll pay your debts and give you enough money to disappear quietly. And if I refuse," she smiled, and it was not a kind smile, "then I'll finish what I started. I'll take every single client you have left. I'll make sure every supplier in this region knows exactly how you betrayed your brother's children. I'll destroy you so completely that in 5 years, no one will remember you ever existed. Your choice, Uncle." He chose survival. The documents were signed within a week. Adiz paid his debts as promised and gave him exactly enough money to relocate to a different state and start over, far away from Enugu, far away from the business he had tried to steal. She never saw him again. She didn't need to. On the day she walked back into her father's office, the one Uncle Emeka had occupied for 3 years, she stood in the center of the room and felt her mother's presence, her father's pride, the weight of everything she had survived and built and reclaimed. Abena and Ngozi were with her. The 3 of them stood together in silence. "We did it," Ngozi whispered. "No," Adiz said. "We're just beginning." She was right. Over the next 5 years, Adiz didn't just rebuild her father's company. She transformed it. She modernized the logistics, implemented digital tracking systems, expanded into new markets her father had never touched. She hired young, hungry talent and paid them well, building loyalty through respect rather than fear. She became known across the Southeast not as Chief Nnamdi's daughter, but as Adiz Nnamdi, the woman who had turned a medium-sized import business into a regional powerhouse. By the time she was 33, her company was worth 5 times what her father's had been at its peak. She had offices in 4 countries. She employed over 200 people. She was featured in business magazines, invited to speak at conferences, courted by investors who wanted access to her network and her instincts. She never forgot where she came from. She established a foundation that provided business training and seed capital to young entrepreneurs, especially women, who had been cheated out of inheritance or pushed out of family businesses. She funded it quietly without publicity because she didn't do it for recognition. She did it because she remembered what it felt like to have nothing, to be told you were nothing, and to have to build yourself from ash and rage. The day she received the call, she was in a board meeting. Her assistant interrupted, apologetic, saying it was urgent family matter. Adiz excused herself and took the call in her office. It was a lawyer representing Uncle Emeka. He was dying, cancer, stage 4, and he wanted to see her. She could have said no. She had every right. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe closure, maybe the part of her that still remembered the uncle who used to give her sweets when she was small, before envy poisoned him, made her say yes. She drove to the hospital alone. Uncle Emeka was in a private room, paid for, she later learned, by his children who had done well enough for themselves. He looked small in the hospital bed, shrunken, the illness having taken everything the years hadn't already claimed. "Adiz," he said when she entered. His voice was a whisper. "You came." "I came." She sat in the chair beside the bed, not close but present. They sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "I destroyed everything. The money I took from you, I lost it all within 2 years. Bad investments, bad decisions. I thought taking what your father built would make me him. But I wasn't him, I was never him." "No," Adiz said, "you weren't. I'm sorry, I know it means nothing now, but I'm sorry. I stole from you. I betrayed my brother's memory. I deserve everything that happened to me." She looked at him, this man who had tried to bury her future, and felt finally something other than cold clarity. Not forgiveness, not exactly, but something softer. Pity maybe, or just exhaustion at carrying anger for so long. "You taught me something, uncle," she said. "You taught me that family means nothing if there's no integrity behind it. You taught me to trust actions, not blood. You taught me that the only person I can truly rely on is myself. Those were hard lessons, but they made me who I am." He closed his eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good, because I'm not offering it, but I'm also not carrying you anymore. Not the anger, not the betrayal, not any of it. I'm setting it down, not for you, for me." She stood. "Goodbye, Uncle Emeka." She walked out of that hospital room and didn't look back. He died 3 days later. She didn't attend the funeral. Today, Adiz Nnamdi stands at the helm of one of the most successful import-export companies in West Africa. She never married, not because she couldn't, but because she chose to build an empire instead. Abena runs the logistics division. Ngozi is the CFO. The 3 of them still work as one unit, still trust each other above everyone else, still carry the memory of what they survived and what they built from nothing. When young women come to her foundation, broken by betrayal, emptied by family who saw them as assets to be liquidated rather than people to be loved, she tells them the same thing every time. What they took from you was real. The pain is real. The injustice is real. But you are more real than any of it. You are not what was done to you. You are what you do next. Build something they can't touch. Become someone they can't diminish. And when you succeed, and you will succeed if you refuse to stop, don't do it for revenge. Do it because you deserve a life that belongs entirely to you. The moral of this story is not that betrayal makes you stronger. Betrayal breaks you. The moral is that you can choose what to build from the broken pieces. You can choose to let the people who hurt you define the limits of your life, or you can choose to define those limits yourself. Adiz chose herself. She chose her siblings. She chose to turn rage into fuel and pain into purpose. And in doing so, she didn't just reclaim what was stolen. She built something far greater than what was taken. She built herself. If this story moved you, drop a comment and share what resonated. Share it with someone who needs to remember that betrayal is not the end of the story, just a chapter. Like this video, subscribe to Folktales by Oma for more powerful African stories that remind us who we really are. More incredible tales are coming and you don't want to miss them. See you in the next story. God bless you.